No, I think today is a significant day, and I think exemplary as well. This is a sector that is being led by professionals, both at the legislature and but also executive as well. We have four committees that have oversight on the work that we do, and this committee is led by all of them are led by professionals from our sector. So I think we're extremely fortunate. And of course, you know my own credentials as well, where I'm coming from. The permanent secretary is also an engineer, so I think Nigeria is extremely lucky to have this mix of people. Our deliberation was not just on defending the budget, but looking at the role that our sector is meant to play in driving the growth that the government of the land at this time is set for all of us. And so we're looking at the budget that we have to work with. What are the opportunities out there that we can use to identify more resources? And how do we ensure that we use those resources to deliver for the benefit of our people? We know the key urgent issues. A lot of young people in Nigeria, there's significant opportunity for them to find meaningful employment in our sector. So we want our sector to be a key driver there. The second one is also communications. Telecommunications and all digital economy is now extremely important for every single Nigerian. So our priority is how can we collectively work together to drive that benefit for them. Looking at the budget that we have, which of course is limited, but saying how do we work with development partners and partners all over the world to deliver on our promises to our people.
So Nigerians will want to know what influenced the recent hiking tariffs.
It's part of the development. I think the hike is also based on inflation globally. This is a sector that has not increased price for a long time. In fact, what governments has been doing is managing the situation. The companies have been crying out for a long time that they're struggling. The cost of diesel, you can imagine how much they bought diesel last year and how much it's going for this year. And this is not a problem that is unique to Nigeria. But what we've done with them is saying that telecommunication services are now extremely important to our people. So it's not something you can just increase price haphazardly. But also, how do we support them to ensure that these companies continue to stay sustainable? This is a sector that employs about 15,000 people directly, the employees of these MNOs. But also indirectly, I think there's about 500,000 people working in the sector, whether those that are selling recharge cards or any of those services. We have to make sure that the sector continues to stay sustainable. But at the same time, we don't want to inflict pain on Nigerians. So they were claiming for 100% increase in tariff. I think as you can see from what NCC released yesterday, we had a lot of back and forth. They've been talking about since even before we were appointed. The first time I met them almost 16, 17 months ago, it was the same thing they were talking about. But now I think we've set it at about 50% to ensure that they can find ways to stay sustainable, but also the price hike is not significant to the point where it becomes painful for our people.
Are you not scared the hike would derail the country's broadband situations and this? As some people are likely to miss out because of the cost.
It's actually, that's a dilemma when people look at it. It's actually going to increase it. Broadband penetration is based on investment in infrastructure. That's the way it is. If you don't have the telecommunications infrastructure, that penetration is not going to happen. And the difficult part of this sector is that the equipment you used 5 years ago is not necessarily what you're going to use now. You have to keep updating, which is why you see that even 5G, some countries in Africa, I think Ghana is just getting on 5G. Right? Some countries in Africa don't even have spectrum for it. Because if you start it, the MNOs must have the appropriate equipment and they have to keep investing. So it's a double-edged sword where if you keep it low and these companies are not making enough money to continue to invest, that penetration is not going to happen. But what government is also now doing is saying we will not leave it to private sector alone, which is why we started the 90,000 kilometers fiber optic network that we want to build. We've been raising the money. We have significant commitment from the World Bank. Our goal is that before the end of the year, that government starts to also lay. So we're not waiting for because private companies will only invest where they can make money immediately. But if government can also invest, it means all Nigerians, wherever you find yourself, you can have access to quality connectivity services, which is now almost like a human right for anyone. Because if you don't have it, you're caught out of reality. If we collect all of your phones for 24 hours, you can imagine what will happen to you. Now imagine those who don't have access to it. We shouldn't do that to them. So that's the balance we're trying to strike. Yeah. Thank you.